All right, hi folks. My name is Dean Yao. Let's go ahead and get started today. So thanks for joining the webinar. Today we're going to be talking about design decisions for embedding business intelligence in your application. And I'm joined here with Mike Pawlowski. He's a systems engineer here at Infinite as well. All right, so with that, let me go ahead and get started. So how I'm going to run the slides is that I'm going to cover some of the basics about who we are and what we do in our product JReport, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how we embed dashboards and reports into your applications and some of the decisions to make and the options that you can choose from. I'm not going to go fully in depth because it's a pretty big topic. Feel free to reach out to us anytime after the presentation, and we'd be happy to run you through any kind of questions that you may have. But also feel free to ask any questions in the questions feature box in the GoToMeeting console that you see there, and we'll have people standing by to answer questions as they come in. All right. So just a few of the highlights of JReport. JReport is an advanced embedded data visualization platform. And the three main areas that I want to focus on in the highlights here, the first one is in high performance and scalability. And we have a lot of different technologies that allow for high performance, fault tolerance, scalability, able to crank out lots of reports at high volume, either on demand or on a scheduled basis. So the first one here is intelligent push-down technology. And what this is JReport server's ability to push down specific types of queries. Most commonly, these are aggregation queries, queries that calculate summaries, min, max, count, averages down to the database or data source, and have the database calculate the result sets, which is usually much smaller than actually passing back all of the data. And so only the result set is passed back to JReport server, and JReport server stores them in in-memory cubes for very quick retrieval by the reports and dashboards later on. So we also have server clustering, and this is where we can build out a cluster of physical or virtual machines running all the same instances and copies of JReport server on each one of those. And this is great for high performance. When you want to scale up, it scales up linearly, and it also eliminates any kind of single points of failure. And the second one is in self-serviceability. So we made it so easy that anyone can create, use, modify, and control their own reports and dashboards. So anyone from the system administrators to report developers to business users to end users, a lot of the functionality can be placed in your own hands to be able to do the work that you need done without having to bother anyone else. And these are evident also in the components on the reports and dashboards. Very easy to use interactive charts, controls, and widgets. And the third one here is in flexibility. So not only making it very easy to connect to a wide range of different data sources from all sorts of different types of relational databases and even a lot of the cloud and big data vendors out there. We support some we use standard connectors such as JDBC or ODBC, and with others, specifically with some of the big data vendors, we're building out specific connections to them to be able to pull data in much more quickly than using a standard connector. Also, we have a very flexible and customizable not only front-end UI, but also different options to embed and customize the JReport server into your own application. So this also plays into embeddability, and we'll talk about some of the options in a few minutes. And then we have a lot of different flexible delivery options, a lot of different formats to deliver reports and dashboards in. PDF obviously is a very common one, over the web with the interactivity, and even formats like Microsoft Excel, where we actually can retain real chart objects in the Excel sheet. So it's not just taking a snapshot of the of the chart image and pasting it in Excel, but you can actually go and further manipulate the representation of your data as you move forward in Excel. Now, just in this example, we have other formats as well. Okay, so let's move along and talk about how we position ourselves in the marketplace. So over on the top left, you can see these are the traditional BI vendors. These guys are great in delivering a lot of enterprise-ready feature sets to the large enterprise customers, typically enterprise-wide type of solutions. But with all those great rich feature sets comes a very high cost in not only acquiring and administrating these systems, but also ramp-up time and training the right people, sometimes are dedicated business analysts, to be able to maintain and use these traditional BI systems. And of course, it's a high cost in acquisition, high cost in training. Also, very importantly, it's very hard to embed these big systems into your own application. So if embedding is what you're looking for, those might not be the best solution. Well, on the other hand, on the bottom right, we have open source solutions, which, because you have the source code, it's very easy to embed. So embeddability is great in those scenarios, but oftentimes the open source versions have a limited feature set, very focused set of features, higher risk because you may not have the right features included when you need them developed, and also the commercial versions of those open source solutions could also be very expensive. Most production environments will not want to use an unsupported open source version of this type of solution. They'll want to pay for a commercialized version, which could get expensive as well. Well, where JReport sits in is the best of both worlds. We have the full power of embedding, such as from the open source platforms, with the enterprise-ready feature sets of the traditional platforms, and it's also very competitive in cost-wise. All right, so let's talk about some of the the key solution areas of JReport. The first one is embedded BI, and of course I'll drill into that a little bit more. The second one is the wide array of different customizable dashboards and reports that we let you guys build on your own to be able to white label into your own applications. And then we have analytics, so we have a full suite of analytics capabilities. Most recently we have visual analysis, which Mike will demo later on, that really lets you take full control of your data from the very beginning, not kind of step through a step-by-step fashion and then see your visualizations, but you can actually control them from the very beginning and see the data represented that way from the start. And then we have mobile BI, just another way to take your data and explore it on a mobile device. We specifically support iOS native an application called JReport Mobile. All right, so with our embedded solution, I mentioned before that JReport is an embeddable BI platform. It has all the security administrative features that enterprise expect, and it's highly customizable not only in the look and feel, but also in the back-end reporting server to be embedded into your own application servers or your internal applications. We have a very strong sense of metadata management, and what I mean by that is the ability to reuse components, reuse formulas, measures, dimensions, reports, dashboards, everything, charts, tables, crosstabs, control components are stored into catalogs for very quick retrieval and reuse later on. So that the users don't have to, when they build dashboards, they don't have to recreate all the charts and tables and crosstabs that were existing before. So reuse is a big theme here. And then we have a wide set of development tools, specifically one of them is JReport Designer, which lets you build components down to the very detailed, minute level and connect to different types of data sources and build out your reports and dashboards that way. And we have a very extensive API for application embedding. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. All right, now there's a few ways to embed JReport from a business use case. So two main types of deployment types is that the first one is that we can embed into any application. Specifically in this section I'm talking about non-software as a service applications. So if you're an OEM or ISV and you ship product to your customers, and you require some type of powerful BI reporting solution, you can easily embed that into your own applications, whether you're an ISV or you want to use that product in-house. Typically this is hosted on premises, and it's, again, highly customizable, manageable, and very scalable. Now, if you also offer a SaaS, either to your external subscribers or to your internal user base, then a lot of our customers are also embedding reporting our solution in SaaS environments, typically hosted on a cloud model, whether that's a public, private, or a hybrid combination of the two. And here, actually, in both cases, we support a wide variation of licensing models to be able to fit into our customers' licensing schemes. All right, so in the next slide, let's talk a little bit more about how we provide different options for integration. So on the left, or sorry, on the y-axis, you can see that these are the different types of deployment options. And then on the x-axis, you can see these are the functional integration options. So I'll take one of each of these in turn With JReport, you can deploy JReport as a standalone reporting engine. And this is great because it's very quick, very good for eval, and actually a few of our customers are actually running JReport in a standalone fashion. Out-of-the-box functional, it doesn't require any programming, and it runs on any Java SDK-enabled platform. Moving on up here, as we get to be more integrated in the deployment, we have server integrated. Well, here you can actually drop JReport in as an EAR or WAR file and leverage your existing Java EE and infrastructure. It's a very small footprint, and it's very easy to deploy it this way. So not much integration is necessary here, just dropping it as an EAR or WAR file. And as you move up, and and then the server integrated is a typical example of that is dropping JReport in into your application server. Moving on up, application embedding is talking about your application. And this is including JReport as a jar file into your application directly, so that it is seamlessly embedded into your application. You can package it up and ship the entire thing as a product with JReport embedded into it, and it's fully integrated into your build, your deployment workflow. You can distribute it alongside your application, and it's basically just dropping in reporting capabilities directly into your application so that it looks and feels as part of your own. All right. So moving over to the y-axis, the first area is that we have URL API integration. So with this is talking about integrating into your application at the presentation layer. So it's a very seamless transition from moving from your application to the report, and this is commonly used by just including, let's say, an icon of your report or a link to your report in your application and calling a JReport report or dashboard that way. It requires very minimal web layer skill sets, and it's a quite easy way for you to embed into one of your iframes or directly into your web page. And on the right, we have Java APIs. So this is really talking about full integration. So this is having your application, excuse me, calling JReport using our extensive API. So all the functionality of JReport is exposed in our API set. I'm not going to go into that in detail, of course, but this is giving you the full flexibility of controlling reports, dashboards, and even JReport administrative features and management features directly from your application. All right, so moving right along, let's talk about UI integration. So I mentioned before that you can actually include a URL into your application as a very simple way to call our reports and dashboards. Here you can see an example of a fictitious customer's application. This is not our console. This is a fictitious customer's application that just happens to have our logo on it. But you can design it to have different tabs. But then at the end of the day, you're really providing URLs attached to each one of these icons to load up the reports and dashboards that way. And here's an example of a typical URL. I'm not going to go through that in detail, but you can pass parameters and call up different URLs inside of different catalogs there. All right. We also have different ways to integrate into your own security and administrative systems. We support single sign-on integration as well as integrating into your LDAP. And just lots of different ways to fully integrate that into your management and admin systems. By the way, we also have a full administrative console, which may or may not need after you embed JReport into your application. All right, so let's turn our attention to some of the other functionality in JReport. With ad hoc reporting, we're really giving the power of creating reports to less technical people. So once you have your data sources all set up by your administrator and connections made to your JReport server, then an end user just has to go through a step-by-step wizard, basically choosing a template to start with, maybe carving that up into different areas and start putting charts, tables, crosstabs into those different sections of that blank canvas. You can choose additional styling to that report, and then you can launch it, and then you can save it and share it with other users. So it really provides the flexibility in allowing you to add your own sort components, filter components, linking to the reports, and some of the OLAP capabilities that support, like drilling into details and group expansion and collapsing. So all of this lets you adhere to your security and corporate governance policies, so it's a lot of flexibility that way. Now, with ad hoc reporting, we also offer ad hoc analytics. And I mentioned before that we have visual analysis, which is we released this about 1.5 years ago, and it's a very powerful way for you to start analyzing your data right away. So without having to go through a wizard, you can start with a blank crosstab and just start dragging over your dimensions and measures. You can add more dimensions, you can remove them, you can look at them as a numerical text values. You can change that to a bar chart very easily, to a line chart, pie chart. You can add all sorts of different shapes, rotate the, you can pivot the rows and columns, and it's all made very quick because of our in-memory cubes. All of this is usually run on aggregation information, and since all the aggregation information can be stored in memory cubes, it makes this type of response, being able to change the data views, very quick and speedy. All right, so we also have another tool that allows the very easy creation of dashboards. So I mentioned reuse before. So this is JDashboard, allows you to very easily drag and drop components, whether they're charts, tables, crosstabs, or even your control components like filters, slider bars, sort components, from a library of components over to a blank crosstab and build out your dashboard that way. You can move them around, you can resize different components, include third-party widgets like OpenStreetMap or Google Maps, and even set all your OLAP types of analytical capabilities as well. You can set up synchronized refresh, where you could, if you click on a filter, you can have that refresh one or more of the other components, and it's all built in HTML5, so it's very adaptable to a lot of web browsers. And Mike will definitely show you how to create a quick dashboard using JDashboard.
which will show the entire set of APIs that we expose for our product. For example, just logging into the JReport application using single sign-on, the API shows some of the features, or in this case, some of the interfaces that you would have to programmatically code. In this case, HTTP external authorized, and it gives you some helpful information in terms of what summaries or methods would be used. And we have this robust set of code samples to assist you in embedding JReport with your existing backend, regardless of the development platform. So wherever you install JReport on the server, in this case on my C drive, navigate to the JReport folder, server 13.1, maybe a little bit different naming convention than this, help and samples. You'll find a large repository of code samples. It's all broken down by features to help you implement back-end functionality in using JReport. For the example that I showed logging into the application using single sign-on, we have some code samples available for you. So if you just navigate to the API security folder, single sign-on folder, you'll see a file, custom HTTP external authorized.java. So this code sample will assist you in determining how to use your existing backend with the Java APIs, the JReport APIs, and using the single sign-on. All of the sample code is heavily documented to assist you in this endeavor. So we see here that that interface called HTTP external authorized also calls that method get external authorized user. So in addition to the APIs and the code samples, there's a very robust way to help you implement JReport with your backend environment. Let's go back to the demo site. So we've logged into JReport. JReport can also work with your existing web application by embedding on the front end. So imagine this is your current web application. All the fonts, the logos, the images, the color scheme, this all represents your web page, regardless of whether it's a Java JSP file, ASP coming from the .NET background, PHP, or any other web technology. JReport is embedded within your web pages simply by adding frames, divs, or links in the form of a URL. So if we see a code sample, how am I generating the URL for this combo report and drilling? If I simply view the source code for this and search for combo, here we see the syntax required to embed JReport on the front end. It's a URL. There are necessary parameters in order to generate this report. If you're interested in embedding JReport on the front end, in any browser, navigate to the company website again, ginfonet.com/kbase. In the knowledge base archive under JReport Server Live, Users Guide, click the HTML link. And under the HTML link, search for running reports via URL. This will provide all the syntax and some examples of exactly what is required to embed JReport on the front end via URL. If you're interested in the exact parameters that are being used to embed it on the front end, I would suggest clicking Appendix 7, Parameters for Running Reports via URL. This encompasses all the parameters that are used in embedding JReport on the front end of your existing web application. So how does JReport work? Under the covers, again, this is embedded within your web page. Here we have a simple example of a parameter report in which the user clicks the Submit button. What's happening under the covers is these input parameters are being passed on the query string to the JReport server. For this particular report, there's a query associated. That query is executed on your data source. The result set is sent back to JReport server. Ultimately, this report is rendered within the client's browser using only HTML5 and JavaScript. There's no external plugins required to generate this report. Everything you see on this report can be customized. The fonts, the color schemes, the logos, everything. So this is an example how you embed JReport and customize it or white label it to your end user's preferences. So in effect, you can have this blue and bar chart deployed to client A. You can have the exact same report delivered to client B with orange and purple bars. either when you're creating these predefined reports, just modify certain properties when you're creating the reports, or you can do wholesale changes via cascading style sheets. In terms of reports, depending on your end user's needs, you can grant a lot of interactivity and flexibility for your end users. The ability to click on these column headings to sort, very easy feature to implement when you're creating these, allowing your users to filter the records and choose only those records in the Northeast region. Determining how you want to display your data, whether off to the side of this slice or by hovering over this. We see there's 4 back-ordered items. We support the master detail level relationships in which the user can click on that bar, drill into a detail level view. It's as granular as you would like to do for your reporting. I can click on this additional level to drill down into an additional level of details. On any type of report, there's a toolbar. The user can click this undo icon on the toolbar. That will go back and remove any filter conditions without requiring an extra trip to the server. On any type of report, if the user clicks the print button, we can print those pixel perfect reports, both in PDF as well as HTML format, as well as exporting. There's 8 formats that we currently support. PDF, HTML, and Excel typically are the most popular formats. By clicking the submit button, JReport will generate this full-featured worksheet on the fly. You'll notice that any type of formula is preserved in this worksheet, and any type of object, whether it's a pie chart, bar chart, any visual object is treated as a chart object in which the end user can change their chart types on the fly simply because JReport preserves the formulas that are used to generate these Excel worksheets. So moving on to the next type of report. On this type of report, in every type of report, there are certain expectations of the user. The ability to click on a column legend on a pie chart to drill down in from a country level to a state to a city level. On a crosstab report for Latin America, the user can click on Latin America, drill down into those countries in Latin America. The toolbar is also available in which they can undo their commands. Even on the row level, they can right-click on a specific row heading, in this case bold. They can go down in the hierarchy from a bold category to a specific product in reverse order. They can go up into the hierarchy. If they're not satisfied with this type of report, we're currently displaying category information. They could change the dimension on the fly simply by choosing product name, and this crosstab automatically updates on the fly. There's a lot of features that you can grant your user, the ability to select multiple filter elements. So blends and flavored categories, you'll notice that the pie chart and the crosstab are updated. For your more sophisticated users, you can click the edit mode button in the upper right hand corner, which exposes the metadata layer, in which even for this predefined report, the end user has the ability to add additional dimensions of data simply by dragging and dropping those data elements even onto a pre-existing report, both on the column level, you'll see the orange line appear, or the row level, just by dragging and dropping. The user can save these reports into a particular folder or a public folder. As long as users have permissions to reports, they have the ability to view the reports. We have a roles-based security model where creating users, groups, and roles. That allows users to look at specific reports. We also have a security model. So certain users would have elements to entire columns. Other users would have access to only specific types of rows. So the next topic is called ad hoc reports. This is a wizard-style approach to building a report. It requires no SQL knowledge from the end user. It's a 4-step process in which the user chooses a layout style. They can't customize it. They can split it into different areas, choosing the different components they would like to add on these particular type of ad hoc reports, and going through the steps of actually what data elements they would like to use for their ad hoc report. We do support multiple data sources on the same report. From an end user standpoint, just determining what data elements they would like to add for the category on the x-axis. Maybe some additional information about sales would represent the series, And since bar charts represent aggregate information, just determining whether cost, quantity, or sales by dragging and dropping, and determining if they want to change their chart type, they have the ability to make that change. Clicking the next step in the wizard, we're currently building the table report. We can use an alternative data source if we so choose. And the user simply chooses what data elements they would like in the details section, if there's any requirements for grouping the data, or providing totals on this report, simply by determining what data elements they would like to use. I'd like to sort these records by customer name, and I'd like to provide some aggregate totals at the very end of this report in the footer, in the quantity field. They can run this ad hoc report created from scratch without any knowledge of SQL. Everything we've seen in reporting, drilling down from a region to a country level, they can change by right-clicking, change the dimensions from sales quarter to maybe product type. Edit mode exposes that metadata layer. The toolbar appears for printing those pixel-perfect reports. They can export. They can save the report to a particular folder in a public folder as long as the end users have permissions to the reports. In this next section, a popular feature called visual analysis, which relies on aggregate type of data that can either be built on demand or on a scheduled task. The end user simply drags and drops these data elements onto their grid, and it dynamically builds this report on the fly. So I'd like to see, based on region, maybe broken down by month by dragging and dropping. This report will constitute sales information, aggregate information. I'd like to put a header on this report simply by dragging and dropping. And you can easily swap out from region abbreviation and sales month. There's an icon on the toolbar for that. You can just as easily change this type of report by dragging and dropping that dimension on the fly. And there are different types of charts available, from bar charts, line charts, pie charts, and shape charts. If we check this report, I'll try that total sales one more time, dragging and dropping. And I'm going to change this chart type just by simply dragging and dropping the dimensions. It's just as easily to remove dimensions on the fly simply by removing it off the grid. At this point, you can save it. We're going to save this into a particular folder. It could be in your report folder. It can be in a public folder. I'll call this Webinar VA. And we could reuse this visual analysis component in the next segment. This is the last segment of today's demo, called JDashboard. The workflow of JDashboard relies on pre-existing components that are stored in a library. There are many templates available to assist you in building these templates, these library components. It's very popular to add filtering elements to sort by a range of dates. We support geoanalysis type reporting if the user clicks on North America. We support messaging, passing parameters in between these components, so we're saying the North American orders table. We also have a slider control which allows the user to filter among a range of values. There are multiple templates available that support geoanalysis type reporting. Here we have an example of a map that uses OpenStreetMap licensing. So I'll demonstrate how changing this slider control will filter the records in the United States. They can use these additional web filter controls to narrow down those particular regions they would like to see reporting data on. The user can click on this rate map, which exposes a county level breakdown. It's all color coded. The darker colors indicate higher unemployment rates. By hovering over the counties, we see dynamic data appear. You control what data appears over the county. The messaging is working for this particular component. In Alabama, we can click on the state unemployment table component. This is a heat map. In the size of this heat map, each county is indicative of the percentage of the state population. Again, color coding indicates the higher unemployment rate counties, lower unemployment rate counties. You determine the color schemes, what data represents the area on the heat map. Let's take a look at some other type of heat map components quickly. We support the motion charts, as Dean talked about earlier. Any type of component, whether it's a table report, crosstab, motion chart, bullet chart, pie chart, all of these can be created in JReport Designer's library components. Let's take a look from an end user standpoint. How does the end user create a dashboard? This is the user interface in which the user goes into the repository of components, simply drags and drops these pre-existing library components onto their dashboard. They have the ability to resize, to arrange the dashboard components as they see fit. I'll choose a couple other ones. Simply by dragging and dropping the components onto their dashboard canvas. And as the visual analysis component works, users also have the ability to go into the repository. And this is, oops, misspelling. The user can decide that visual analysis component that I created and saved earlier, I could drag and drop that component onto my dashboard. Or if I so choose, I could drag and drop the component as I built it in visual analysis. It will create a new tab and it will appear exactly as if I was working in the visual analysis feature. So for end users, they have the ability to take these visual analysis and continue working on it in a dashboard environment. So that wraps up all the product features of JReport, from standard reports, ad hoc reports, visual analysis, and dashboard. A little bit about embedding JReport both on the front end via URL or embedding JReport on the back end by exposing that robust set of APIs. And I'm going to turn it back over to Dean.
All right, thanks, Mike. Go ahead and make myself the presenter. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen now. All right, thanks, Mike. Thanks for that great demo. Hopefully that gave you guys a good glimpse into just some of the functionality that JReport can provide and the ways that you can embed reports and dashboards into your own environment. So just want to wrap things up with just 2 additional slides here. The first one is just a quick snapshot of our global customer base. And I'm not going to go through all these obviously, but you can see that we align to a lot of different verticals. We, you know, the reporting solution it can be adaptable to a wide range of different industries and verticals. For financial services, we have Visa. So in this particular case, we have reports at Visa running at more than 1,200 commercial cardholder accounts, where each one of those accounts has about 1 million card holders that are continuously getting their personalized reports. We actually have 2 other deployments in Visa, one in Visa Small Business, where they have about 15,000 of their small businesses running JReport, and then also in a larger type of clustered environment where it's serving massive mission-critical IRS types of reports. With also Target, we're actually enabling access to their product lifecycle reports through a highly customizable web interface. So buyers at Target's headquarters are using JReport, and it's also utilized by thousands of Target employees and vendors. And the last one I want to talk about is IBM. So, you know, even IBM owns Cognos, which is another BI tool. They're still embedding JReport into a small set of their products. IBM Lotus Learning Management, Infosphere, Tivoli, and also NetCool Configuration Manager. And the reason why they chose to stay with JReport is because it's very easy to customize, integrate, and it's really easy for their customers to get up and running very easily and just have a wide range of different embedding options. All right, so just wanted to show the next step slide. We're going to actually send you a follow-up email where you can get a free trial. It's a fully functional trial version of JReport 13.1. And different ways that we can help build the proof of concept for you. And also we want to send you a white paper specifically talking about embedded reporting dashboards and analytics into your applications. We have a lot of resources on our website. You can go to jimfinite.com, and under the resources tab you'll see demo videos. And under that you'll see a handful of videos that talk about, well, a wide range of videos, but a few of them talk about specifically on how to embed in both the front end and back end of your application. So check those out when you have time. And lastly, you can reach me anytime, dyo@jimfinite.com, or give us a call. So I'll leave the screen up here, and I think we have one more polling question that we'll show. And after that, I just want to run through a couple of the Q&As that came in, and and have Mike answer those. So we'll leave this up for just a few seconds. Okay. All right, so let's see here. A few questions that came in. Looks like 3 or 4 questions. So Mike, can we customize JReport to integrate with our existing single sign-on and security systems? I touched upon that a little bit, but Mike, what's your take on that?
Yes, we can. So this is typically how you embed JReport on the back end. Single sign is a programmatic function in any development platform. We use the JReport API to do this. So as you saw at the very onset of my portion, I logged in one time into a web application. I didn't have to log in once to a web application and then a second time into the JReport server. It was just what we call single sign-on, and we have a robust API in which we have the ability to help you make a connection to your back end programmatically. Not only for single sign-on, but all the features and functionality of JReport, setting up a scheduled task, running a report, the catalog that Dean mentioned earlier that stores the metadata or repository, that can all of this can be done programmatically using the JReport API.
Okay, great. Let's see, second question that I see here is how do you embed and customize JReport in non-Java environments?
So I like to think of JReport, it's technology agnostic. It doesn't matter whether you're using .NET, PHP, Java, Python, ASP, or any other type of development platform. There's one of 2 ways to embed JReport in any type of environment. We can either embed JReport on the front end, that's done via URL, or you can embed JReport on the back end using the APIs. For development shops that are not familiar with Java technologies, we can accommodate all the features and flexibility of JReport simply by embedding JReport on the front end. That's done via links and URLs.
Okay, great. Let's see, one more here. How is connecting to MongoDB any different than connecting to any other database such as a relational DB?
We have a specific connector in JReport that fetches this aggregate data from the aggregation framework in MongoDB. So if we split it out between the aggregation framework, which is a much more efficient way of fetching that aggregate data as opposed to their map reduce process. So we have this specific connector. It's slightly different than JDBC or ODBC, but it is flexible. It adapts to any changes in your data output or size from this aggregation framework.
Okay, sounds good. All right, one more here. The in-memory cube technology, please explain that a little bit further.
This is a feature in JReport Server Live that allocates a certain amount of memory on the server that you allocate and you cache your data with. So as we saw earlier in visual analysis, it relies on aggregate information. We can either build an on-demand or a scheduled task to retrieve the information from your data source, and that data, aggregate data, will be cached in this memory that's allocated on the server. So some examples is if you had a sum of your sales and that information was grouped by country, you can in essence have 50 million rows from the database, but in aggregate information, we only store those 50 records. So it's in a very efficient way of storing this aggregate information on the server.
All right, great. Looks like that's all the questions, but we'll actually stay online to the top of the hour for the next, looks like 10 minutes. And we'll continue to answer the questions that are rolling into the questions box. So if you guys want to, get your questions out, feel free to do that, and we'll be around. Otherwise, hope to see you next time in our webinar in April. Thanks a lot.